Can you outline like what it is for you, like what you see should be happening versus what is not happening?
Well, I think for one, so kind of getting back to the previous question about Democrats, is that Democrats, what they did wrong for so many years is that they would push people out. They really endorsed this cancel culture. So people that had a difference of opinion, we're asking people, during the DEI world, we said, we want you to be vulnerable. We want you to have safe spaces. And we created these safe spaces, apparently. And when people would actually come out and they would talk about their bias or they would talk about their racism, they would get canceled. And so that was just a very poor way of doing it. I tell people all the time, one of the people that I give a lot of credit to is George Floyd. His tragedy, his murder opened the door to have these very difficult conversations. And we as Democrats messed it up. Because what we did is we said, we wanted to be in power. We're going to control the narrative. And now you're a guest into this conversation.
Instead of including them in the conversation. Yeah, exactly. I agree.
Exactly.
I agree. How do you feel about the Black Lives Matter movement? Do you think that also fueled the issue as well?
So I think the Black Lives Matter, this is the one thing I will say about the Black community that I've always appreciated.
Okay.
The Black community has always been able to come together and fight for civil rights, fight for their life when it comes to law enforcement. And, for me as a previous law enforcement officer, I was a sheriff deputy. And, I will tell you that there is injustice in our criminal justice system. It is not a perfect system. It needs to be worked on. And there's been so many instances that we've seen throughout history where it's like, okay, we're finally going to get change in the criminal justice system because of what we just saw on TV, and it wouldn't happen. And we just allowed it to continue until finally we had a boiling point where everybody, because of the pandemic, was locked down, watching their TVs. We saw the murder of George Floyd. And so that started to change things. But when it comes to Black Lives Matter, like, we have to be okay as a society to say, we have not done enough to reform our criminal justice system. And there's overwhelming data to show that Black people are marginalized in the United States when it comes to our criminal justice system, and that we need to fix it. So I support the Black Lives movement. I think where it started to get out of control is that other people started saying, well, white lives matter, Hispanic lives matter, blue lives matter. Well, everybody's lives matter, but that's not what we're talking about right now. We're talking about the injustice in the criminal justice system, on how Black Americans are in prison more than any other demographic. They're being killed by law enforcement officers at different times of a traffic stop or domestic violence calls. And the use of force is not the same when it comes to other demographics. And it's just that plain and simple.
And I like the fact that you said that it's plain and simple. I feel like where the BLM movement went wrong is with the defund the police.
Yes.
I think Black Lives Matter and defund the police are two different things, right?
Absolutely.
And I think the course they were on before, first of all, we're not defunding the damn police. Excuse me. That's just not going to happen. But like where they went, like for me, I'm not for police officers not having qualified immunity, because I feel that you wouldn't get anybody who want to be a police officer. If you're personally held accountable and liable for something, then I just don't see how you will opt into wanting to have just basic common sense. Have a job as a police officer, not going home to your family, and an incident could happen and it would make you, and then people could have the right to sue you because you don't have this, you're not covered. Versus I am very much for the registry, where bad cops get on the registry and they get kicked off. And if you don't have your camera on, you're automatically fired. Like, there are certain things that I think are just basic that I think we could do. But the Democrats also didn't they have the House and the Senate? I could be wrong, so correct me if I'm wrong. And they didn't do anything about George Floyd.
No.
So I think they lost their voice on it, honestly.
Well, I think like when it comes to, defunding the police, that was absolutely the wrong thing to do
The
because
mess
we
we made.
still need
We need police.
law and order. Yeah,
Right.
we need police officers. But what we needed to take that money instead of defund them, take that and invest that into better training,
Correct.
into better ways of hiring and recruiting the right people into those positions. And
Yeah.
also understanding that like it's a very taxing job. Like it is a very stressful job and you have to
I can
make
imagine.
second decisions.
Oh my
And, we're people, we get scared, and so
God.
when you look at that type of lifestyle, I've always said this, having a police officer on patrol for 20 straight years is not good.
Really?
Absolutely. Because I will
Huh.
tell you, being in patrol, I had this, not my day on patrol was very similar to many days. You get in your car, you take calls, but everything in between, I've never had the same day because you're responding to different situations. You could be responding to a murder scene, child molestation, rape cases, active duty shooters. There's so many things that happen, and some days I never went to work where I wasn't like already 8 to 10 calls down, and I had to hurry up.
Oh my God.
So, it's stressful, and so
And
I
what's the
think
starting salary for a cop? What's the starting salary for a cop?
so. When I started, it was 32,000.
You got kidding me. What?
32,000. Yeah. Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's not a lot of money. It's not a lot. But just like
Wow.
in any other profession, if you do it for too long,
Mm,
you start getting like sterile to the work, And being a police officer, you start to not have as much empathy because of the fact that
really?
well, think about it. When you're starting to see all these terrible things, nobody
Yeah.
calls 911 because they're having the best day of their life. It's typically something pretty bad, right? So when
Interesting.
you're seeing all of this, you start to become a little bit numb to it. And that's why I think looking at that trajectory, that career path needs to be changed. Being on patrol 2 to 3 years, hey, you know what? Now you're going to go work, at an administrative job, right?
Mm,
Or you work at the academy, or you're going to work, being an SRO, school resource officer. You're going to go work, special crimes. But all of these different positions are a path of sort of like promotion instead of making it a path of a very diverse career within law enforcement.
that is
So
so good because I don't think people think about it like that. Like people just think police officers beat cop. They don't like my friend's husband he started off as a beat cop, but he moved to an investigator, detective, and then he went into internal affairs. They hated him in internal affairs, but that I don't think people know that there's so many different job options in law enforcement.
absolutely. Yeah.
Huh.
And so that's where I think we have to look at it. And, we
Okay.
have to be able to, again, how do we use our taxpayer money to make and support the best officers so that way they can keep us safe? But right
That's
now, nothing has really changed in the criminal justice system. I mean, think about the Black Lives Matter movement. Think about the defund the police movement, the murder of George Floyd, and so many other people that we've seen. What has honestly changed in our criminal justice system? What laws have changed? Nothing.
what can we do about that? Because if the Democrats have the House and the Senate, and we know the Republicans aren't going to do anything about it. We suspect that they're not going to do anything about it. How do we bring that change? I mean, I think those two simple things, the registry for bad cops and more training, 3 things, and then also having the police officers wear their body camera as a requirement. I think those things can significantly make an impact. Because I remember growing up, it's funny, I was having lunch with my daughter yesterday, and I started late, she's a little young, and she was like, "Mommy, who are those people in a uniform?" And I say, "Those are police officers. They protect us." And I just thought about when I said that, I was like, "Oh my God, some people would have had a completely different comment for that." for police officers. They wouldn't have said that they protect. And she's like, oh, they protect us like Superman. And I'm like, yeah, they're like Superman, but regular people. And then I think like some people would probably tear me up in the comments for that statement, because the cops represent so many other things, but we have to figure out a way to get people back. Like, to me, I say teachers should make $100,000. Cops should be right in line with making that much money as well. Because if we can get back to it's the competition to be a cop, then I think we will get a better candidate of people. Like one of the things that I used to love in DC, they had a program where cops would get 50% off abandoned properties. It was a way to gentrify the neighborhood, get cops in the community. That would still be awesome now, to bring cops into law enforcement, into communities that most people wouldn't think to go in. So if the crime is really high, you get a bigger discount for being in that area, right? So if 2003 is a bad zip code with high crime, then you give cops more incentive to actually 50% discount on any abandoned houses to move in that neighborhood and live there for 5 years. So I'm just like, there are different ways. That to me is a better use of taxpayer funds. And it also helps because you're less likely to draw a gun when you know Mr. Jones, the old man who's sitting on the corner every day having his cigarette, or the bodega that's on the corner and her son is, riding a bike and they're outside playing. Like, these are people that's in your community. And I personally believe that community supersedes race. A lot of people don't believe that, but for me, that's what I've seen in my life.
Well, I think like a good policy when we think about understanding, why do we not have enough Black and brown members of the police force? It's not because they don't apply.
Really?
It's because there's this little dirty secret in law enforcement, and that is the background investigator. So typically what happens is you apply, you go through an interview process, that's 2 or 3 interviews. And then you, in some states, have to do a polygraph, which I've done. In Arizona, you have to do a polygraph. And then you go to the background investigator. Now, the background investigator can automatically disqualify you, and those records are sealed. And once a background investigator disqualifies you, no other department in the country will pick you up because you've been disqualified.
Are you serious?
Yeah. And a background investigator can disqualify you anywhere from 5 years to life. So what would make a background investigator disqualify you? Well, if you've got a criminal record, like let's say you've got felonies, there's certain things that, you just can't, be you can't do in order to be a police officer. But for many people, many people, never been convicted of a crime. They go to an interview, and then I've seen it. I've heard it. I've had good friends that have told me that they go in and they say, "So what did you do wrong here? Blah blah blah. You've never been arrested. You never blah blah blah." And it's like, what about this fishing incident that you put here? Oh, well, I was like 6 years old, and I didn't know that I needed a fishing license, and blah blah blah. Also, you lied on your application. Is that what you're telling me? And they're like,
"No, are you serious?
I'm not lying, but you're asking me if I've ever done anything wrong." And one thing that I can think of is like one time I went fishing and I didn't get a license, but I was like 6 years old, disqualified. That I kid you not, it happens that easily. And it happens all the time. There are thousands of people that apply to be a police officer. And there's a reason why only 1% of the population ever gets to wear that badge. And so we don't have a perfect system. And it's a system that is talk about personal bias and judgment. I mean, I do not like that part of the hiring process. Wow. I don't understand. If you've never been convicted of a crime, and their job is to disqualify you, not to bring you on. You've already passed your interview. You've already done everything. a board of people have determined that you should move on. And now the very last stage is this one person where there's no checks and power on this person, which is the background investigator can automatically disqualify you.
What? And it's not even like a panel where they can have 3 people. Now that would be reasonable, like 3 people or 5 people and one person cast the deciding vote. Like, because I mean, a fishing license, it's like, how many
that does happen. That's part of the hiring process. But once they pass that part and they go to the background investigator, that background investigator has all the power. No one, not even the chief of police, can override their authority. Those records are kept confidential. It's not up to public to be able to show the public, and it's kept in secret.
That's too much power.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Absolutely.
too much power for one person. Wow. So we have a law enforcement issue, and that is becoming a breeding ground for a lot of white supremacy organization, law enforcement.